Yo, this is a review of the GHERO from Incott. The GHERO essentially is a Vaxi NP-01S clone with some small differences, but if you were looking for the shape and didn't want to spend a lot, there's an option now. I've tried a lot of ergos in the past and I've never really chosen it over an ambi before, but the NP-01S was one of my favorites to use. So how does this mouse, which has a very similar shape but coming in at a cheaper price point of $50, compare? To start it off, let's talk about the shape. For those who haven't tried the NP-01S before, the easiest way to describe it would be if you added a Nitro factory mod onto an ambi to make it an ergo. Firstly, if you look at the back, it does look oddly somewhat symmetrical. It's only when you view it from the top that you see a flare coming out from the right hand side. The NP-01S had a flatter profile, meaning it wouldn't be super filling, mostly contacting the base of your palm with an amazing back hump. The GHERO in comparison also has a back hump, but the overall profile is a bit taller. This allows for more palm contact, giving a more locked in feel, which can be good or bad depending on how you aim, but it pretty much gives an alternative to people who wanted the shape, but felt like the NP-01 was too big and the 01S was too small. The hump on the mouse feels really nice. I can aggressive and relax claw this mouse and have no problems with comfort. Though for people who have smaller hands and relaxed claw, this might feel a little too wide. Despite the width being identical to the NP-01S, due to the height, your palm does get filled out a little bit more, and there isn't a problem with just that, but the left side flare here does gently dig into your palm when you close your fingers, so it could lead to some minor fatigue when in use. I wouldn't call this a massive issue because I had no problems with my 19.5 by 10 hands, but it is something to note. The sides of the mouse are decently flat. They do taper in just a little bit, but it's nothing major. A lot of ergos have a sharper edge near the back, but the GHERO is relatively flat still, so you can technically grip there, and yes, fingertipping this is doable, but I wouldn't get this if you were to use a fingertip grip. The buttons are also flat, which is a huge plus. Plenty of mice use these unnecessary grooves to really push you to click a certain area, but because there are so many grip types and variants of the same grip, having a flat layout allows people to click anywhere without any discomfort. The build quality is excellent. I could put a lot of force onto the mouse and it doesn't creak or flex at all, apart from the bottom where it does appear to be using a thinner layer of plastic instead compared to the rest of the mouse. Nonetheless, this is built like a tank. The clicks on the GHERO are some of the best Huano transparent blue shell pink dots I've tried. The feel is quite personal preference, but the switches are well tuned. Clicks are light, they're tactile, and they're very consistent even if you click pretty high up. Unless you're clicking like all the way up here, you will have no problems with it being too stiff. These do however sound a little hollow, which can contribute to them sounding a little cheap, but they don't affect the feel in any way, and I personally like the sound of them. Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 both have some pre and post travel, but Mouse 2 is slightly tighter than Mouse 1. I like the feel of Mouse 1 a little more because of the bouncy feel it has when you spam the button, meanwhile Mouse 2 just feels snappier. Side buttons are pretty good, the size is okay, they have a matte finish and are in a decent spot, though mouse 5 in the back is angled upwards, so it does take some more effort to actually reach, but it's not game changing unless you regularly need access to it in quick succession. Scroll wheel is sub average, the wheel is quite tactile and has decently defined steps, but it doesn't really matter because it's just a little too loose that most of the time when I'm in game using the wheel to jump, it's hard to feel the steps at all, so you could give an extra input if you have it set to swap items or weapons. The middle click is also a bit heavy for my liking. It's quite stiff, which makes it not that spammable, but it is the middle mouse anyway, so you most likely won't be using it a lot, and that's totally fine for me. Coding on this is serviceable. The GHERO base model has a matte finish, while the Pro version has a UV surface, which I've never heard before. The matte surface on my copy does its job. It's not anything amazing though. The mouse didn't feel like it was slipping out during use, but it's definitely not anywhere near the top in terms of grippiness. At first I thought it didn't have a coating at all since it felt similar to the M3S Varun from Damo Shock, but it does have a more matte texture on it. Let's move back onto a good thing about this mouse, and it's the skates. They're very smooth, matching up against the top gaming mice. I could be tripping here, but these do feel just as smooth as the skates on the OP1AK from Endgame Gear, a mouse I had as the best mouse you could get right now in mid 2024. These skates are no joke and they glide well on most surfaces. They are a little slow for my preference and they can get slower when you pair it with control pads, which can give you that insane locked in controlled feel, but I reckon if it was a tad bit faster, it will be the best skates I've tried. Unfortunately, since they're not that fast, the Endgame Gear and Lamzu Maya skates are still my favorites so far. Onto the AK, battery life and software. The battery life on the GHERO is surprisingly good. At times I was hitting close to 2.5, maybe 3 days consistently on 4 and 8K, which is on the longer end compared to other mice that usually last about 2 days on average. You do need a separate dongle to get that 8K feature and it'll cost you $13 extra, which brings the total to $63. It's still a good deal considering some of the good stuff it brings to the table. 2K, 4K and 8K work flawlessly on this mouse with no stutters whatsoever. Some games like COD still don't fully work well with anything higher than 1K, but in games like Valorant and Apex I've had no issues. Now the software itself is your typical software. It is a little scuffed, like some of the words are popping out of the box, but overall it's fine. The setup however was pretty bad. I think I got lucky because it worked after 2 tries, but you have to do 3 updates in a specific order to fully complete the firmware or driver updates. I followed the document they had and my mouse got bricked. My mouse stopped working, I tried turning it on and off, unplugging the dongle, using the USB dongle instead of the AK. None of that did anything until I did a reset, which was also on the document. After the reset, I did the updates again and then it fixed itself. It's not the worst experience I've had installing drivers, but it is unnecessary hassle. So, who is this mouse for? If you're on a budget and the NP-01S is a shape you want to try out, then this mouse could be the one for you. However, if you're unsure on what to pick, you're in the market looking for a mouse that doesn't break the bank, can deliver high performance and you don't really mind the shape as long as it's good, I would spend an extra $10 more for the OP1AK if that is the purpose of your purchase. Although the GHERO is a good mouse that I think is worth the money, I wouldn't back it all on this because it's far from perfect. If it's going to be long-term use, I would rather get a tried and true top mouse that will guarantee a good experience rather than gambling on this one.